real, but counterfeits are usually made in unsafe conditions, potentially using hazardous and even lethal ingredients that could harm you and others. And the money you've paid, it goes right into the hands of criminals and may support child labor, drugs, and even gangs. Smells like big crime to me. So if you still think buying fake products is harmless, think again. And remember, if you don't know where the products came from, how could you know where the money goes? You're smart, buy smart. Go for real. Learn more at mcgruffpsa.org. This message is brought to you by the United States Patent and Trademark Office and the National Crime Prevention Council.
And it is time for Kane County Speaks here at WRMN AM 1410 and WRMN Radio on YouTube. We just activated a new YouTube stream, so if you'd like to join us on YouTube today, you can at WRMN Radio on YouTube. I'm Mark, but the host of the show is Brian Anderson, and he is here once again to talk about the issues and talk to our great candidates running for office here locally. Welcome back to the show, and welcome back to the station. Brian, how you doing? About the second half of the show, by the way, we'll take some phone calls if anybody wants to call. 847-931-1410 and talk to our guest today. 847-931-1410 is the number to call after the 9:30 break. Hi, Brian.
Mark, good morning. Great to be here. Great to see you. Another beautiful day in Elgin. Let's hope it stays this way for the next, 4 or 5 weeks.
Well,
beautiful.
We officially changed to fall in a few days, and I have a feeling the weather's going to follow suit. But
yeah, let's hope
fall can be nice, though.
So before I jump in and just give your listeners a little update on what's happening at the Kane County Government Board, can't wait to get into an interview with Sylvia Schrage, lives here in Elgin. I'm not going to talk too much more. District 20 for a Kane County board seat. But let me just rewind for a minute. I'm still excited about the interview you and I had on the 5th with the young adults. We had James, we had Cecilia, we had Jaden on the phone.
Yeah.
These young, under 30, just energized young people, which was delighted to have that interview.
It was,
and they've had massive amounts of hits on the show.
Well, good.
So I know some of your listeners are tuning in live. Something new for Brian, sign of age. I've got my glasses today to read a little bit better.
I know the feeling.
Yeah, I want to take your audience back. So I did that interview on the 5th, and on September 10th, went to the county board meeting, and lo and behold, what we had anticipated, the board did vote to put on the April consolidated election a referendum to do a special county retailer's occupation tax for 0.75, 0.75%. Once again, the board member, one of them that lives up here in Elgin, Vern Tepe, once again didn't want 0.75, was pounding 1%, but his colleagues of reason, they did vote, and it's going to be 3%. And we'll see what the voters have to say about that.
Yeah.
They don't listen to reason. I'm not going to get into it just for time's sake with the interview, but I reminded the board that household debt is now almost $18 trillion. And that was in the second quarter of this year. Americans now live on an absolute mountain of credit card debt, almost $1.2 trillion. Why? Because when we go to the store and we're paying for goods and services, they're going up. Inflation is skyrocketing. I spent much of my talking time talking about 3,500 different retailers around the country closing their doors, and here they want to put another tax on the backs of the Kane County citizens. Now, very quickly, and this is a big one, and I may even try to get her on one of the programs. I'm not going to give her name right now till I get permission. She just wrote a fabulous letter to Corinne Pirogue, the chair of the Kane County Board. She's the chairman.
Okay.
MBA, she's a CFP, concerned citizen, so that's a certified financial planner. I love it when citizens go, enough is enough, I'm going to do my research. She has spent weeks digging in, and I'm just going to give you the excerpt here. In 2020, the Kane County budget was $65 million. In the last 4 years, and you have to put the person in the leadership position and go, you're accountable. That mark, staggering. It's ballooned to over $122 million. So we're not good financial stewards on the board, and I think that may be one reason why Sylvia, I know that's for a few of them, financial stewardship. When you raise your hand and say you want to be a leader, sometimes you have to do things that may not be super popular, and that may be to cut some spending here and there, which is a good thing. So I just wanted your listeners to know that there's going to be another special county board meeting. I didn't write it down, but I do believe it's off the top of my head. It's coming up on September 25th, and I will validate that during the break. Anyway, without further ado, delighted to be talking to Sylvia Schrage. I'm going to ask you the same question I ask every candidate. Where are you from? Where do you live? Are you single? You married? You have children? Just let's get the audience up to speed on just who you are.
My name is Sylvia Schrage, and I was born in Pennsylvania, which people don't expect when they hear my accent. And as somebody told me when I was working downtown at a law firm, they said, your parents took you overseas just to make you interesting. So my mom is from Argentina, and I moved there. We moved there when I was 5, and I lived there 19 years. So all of my elementary, high school, my first job was all in Argentina. I came back, I studied here, finished a degree in ethnic musicology, ethnic music theory, which is a combination of two of my passions, music and linguistics. It was a linguistic theory applied to music. And I spent a summer, a lot of people don't know this, in Taos Pueblo, studying the music of Taos Pueblo.
Wow. So
my project was to prepare a year to go and then do field work in Taos Pueblo with the indigenous people, and then write a round dance that would be acceptable and was sung on the radio in Taos Pueblo. That was my senior project. So after that, I went and I worked in a law firm in Chicago for 5 years, and then from there I went to work on a doctorate in Hispanic linguistics at UIC, where I taught, and I taught Spanish to heritage speakers, many like our Hispanics from Elgin, who grew up here and know Spanish to get along at home, but wanted to work on developing further their skills. And that's a huge area of opportunity for Hispanics to really foster studying the language, just like you studied English. And there is a very good opportunity in Elgin with the dual immersion school that they have. And that's how I learned English and Spanish in Argentina, half a day in English, half a day in Spanish. And anyway, so after that, I married, and I've been in Elgin 25 years. And that switched from working downtown and teaching at UIC to working at Sherman Hospital. Another 5 years there, where I was the first manager of cross-cultural communications. And I drafted the policies, procedures that were implemented hospital-wide, leading the committee on limited English proficiency and on cultural diversity, to really help the hospital deal with people who don't speak English well. And I said to the doctors, if you can't understand them and take a good history, it's veterinary medicine. You need to know what the patient is saying to diagnose well. I mean, I don't tell them they know that. Doctors know that the best history is taken, the best diagnosis is from the history. So that was that. And then we've raised a son, and my husband is a huge propeller influence in my life, that I'm very happy for that compliment, for that encouragement, for that influence, even for that criticism that makes me a better person. And through him, I've tapped into a whole heritage of farming, which is really, really interesting for the board, because he was raised on a farm in outside of St. Louis. And in many ways, his amazing background, 11 people on well water, with one bathroom, at times with no crop insurance. I mean, quite the life that is very similar to that of many immigrants. So anyway, so that, and then I've been teaching English as a second language at ECC since 2010. And when it comes to hobbies, other than gardening and cooking and just any kind of health thing and biking, I also grew up swimming and playing tennis is a big thing.
So I don't know if you caught all that, Mark. We could probably spend the next 3 hours just talking to Sylvia about Argentina. I'd love to know about that culture and the immersion and just understanding that culture, and then working downtown Chicago, and then moving out here to Elgin 25 years. Now, just for your listeners and for me, so how long have you and Mark been married?
25 years.
I'm sorry, I went boom, right over my head.
I came here when we got married, so 1999. This year we celebrate 25 years, and actually the picture on my walk card is our 23rd anniversary that we biked 23 miles each way to McHenry and back. So,
I love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it. What a great memory. And how old is your son, and what is he doing?
My son is 22 years old, and he is right now in Argentina, which is working on his Spanish and tapping into really knowing his family there, spending some time with my mother. And so I'm really, really happy for that. Before that, last year, he was 6 months in León, Guanajuato, in Mexico. So he's following he's following the path of really getting a perspective of the world by, he's also been in Canada. And so that was something important to us, that he round up his education and have just this kind of broader view of the world.
You've got such an amazing, diverse background and done a lot of really cool things. Tell the audience this why. When did you decide to take this leap and get into local politics? What was your reason, the why? Why? Because it's not for everybody, and I want to know why, right?
Well, I started going to the county board meetings to see where our tax money goes. Everybody complains about high taxes. We compare our taxes to the taxes of so many other people in other counties. Obviously, small town America would be a lot cheaper, even in southern Illinois, or where Mark's family comes from. And so just going there and seeing what's on the agenda, where is the money going, I started noticing some amazing choices that were disturbing. And last week, I just ran into the mayor of Elgin at a local restaurant, actually at the American Legion, and he told me that we have a big problem with lead in the water in Elgin.
Okay.
And so the Elgin has been doing a fantastic job. I mean, it's a leader compared to Aurora and other places in really trying to tackle this. But it's super expensive. And so before they started this project, it would have cost $110 million to get all of the lead removed from all the homes. I'm sorry, not all of the lead from all the homes, the lead service lines from the city to the home, to the outside. And so that would have cost $110 million. 4 years or 5 years later, after having removed the lead service line from 2,000 homes, they have about 10,000 more to go.
Okay.
Guess what is the cost of removing the remaining lines? Just give me a number. They started at 110.
It's going to cost another $80 million.
180.
Oh my goodness.
But that number is a magic number, because last year the board was trying to build unnecessary buildings for that exact number. 150 on a government building and 30 million on a new health department building. The same amount that would take to take the lead service lines out of 10,000 homes spent on buildings we don't need.
I could pause right there. I just want your audience to take that in. I'm staggered. Here you're going and you're discovering and you're finding out and you're speaking like so many other citizens. And then we discover, to your point, and I don't want to go off track, they already have quite a few buildings that they're not even using. Why would we need a new $110 million building? Now, by the way, thanks to the citizens of Kane County going to the board meetings and talking and trying to share wisdom into these board members, that got shut down. I think they want to try to bring it back up again. The other thing they did, which there is a protocol, I understand that, but I believe that we spent over $750,000 on the architectural blueprints for this $110, $140, $180 million government building. So they talk about, we need money, we need to raise taxes. And I'm like, well, don't spend $750,000 on architectural plans, right? Don't do this. How can we help the men and women, the 515,000 people that live in Kane County? You bring up a humanitarian point. We want to make sure that every citizen that lives and pays taxes here in Kane County, they have clean water, that there's no problems.
Yeah. So what happens is we have to think of applying common sense to the common good.
Yes.
That has really been a driving force for what I'm trying to do. Common sense to the common good. Bring people together for what really matters. We spend money on things that are, trying to please these people over there, these people over here, and we're not looking to the common good. And a big part is justice and efficiency in our services. What happens is some people will say, well, the reason the county didn't look at this is because this is a city problem. I understand. It's not that I don't know that the city is the one who has to deal with the problem, but the county has the ability to help the city.
Yes.
And whether they do the whole thing or part of it or how much of it, it's not even on their radar. And this is the part of efficiency in our services. When we have so many people in this district and they are paying the same rate on their tax bill to the county than the people in the unincorporated areas.
Yes.
So they matter. Why do they pay? I mean, the portion of their tax bill that goes to the county is small, but it's still something that
it all adds up.
It all adds up, and the county needs to consider these people as their constituents that need some help. The health department has jurisdiction. The health department is for the whole county. So that is a particular one that concerns me, that I am not saying we should add a budget line to take over the problems of the city. I'm saying that when you had extra funds, these were ARPA funds that were use or lose, and you had to figure out what to do, which we paid about $2 million to consultants to figure out what to do with them and to manage them. That's a lot of money. So Elgin figured it out. $13.5 million they used to remove the lead out of 1,000 homes. So it's kind of a turnkey project. It's the same funds, the same restrictions, the same deadlines. They know what to do. They got it approved. Why doesn't the county talk to the city and see what they're doing with the same kind of funds and cooperate? That's the efficiency part.
Those are great observations, great questions. I know we're very close to taking our first break, and I want to explore it after the break. But before the listeners hear so much more amazing information from you, what was the why? What made you go, I've had enough, I've heard enough? What was the why that got you off of your seat and said, I'm going to run?
The disconnect between the constituents' needs and the agendas, the projects, people who are struggling to make a living. I mean, what happens is that I've been talking to people that nobody has talked to in more than 30 years. And so what happens is we kind of look at who votes, and we talk to the same people who vote and the same people and the same people, and we don't talk to the other ones who don't vote. And we judge those people. We say, hey, you are not interested, you are lazy, you are whatever. The reason they don't vote, they are disenchanted, they are disenfranchised. Those are the people I'm talking to.
Yes. Get them activated, get them registered to vote, and maybe for the first time in their lives, actually go out and vote. And so I think what you're doing is very smart and very wise. And before we wrap, I love what you're, and I slogan, common sense for the common sense.
Common sense for the common good.
Common sense for the common good. I absolutely love it, because it is common sense.
And common good.
And common good for the people.
We need to come together. We can't be divided. We're just by whatever category, we don't even talk to each other. whether it's your views on anything, and just to be neighborly to each other and to listen to each other and to care for each other on practical daily needs like the water you drink and the air you breathe.
Outstanding, Mark.
Yeah, good stuff. Nice to hear from some candidates about some of the issues that they plan to tackle when they get into office. So, that's the first half of our show here today.
It flew by.
It did. We have another half to go, though, and if you want to call in the second half of the show today, give us a call at 847-931-1410. That's the number to call. We're on YouTube at WRMN Radio on YouTube if you want to join us that way. And if you want to send a text to the information line, it's the Image 360 information line, 505-926-1410. South Elgin Chris, Sultan of South Elgin, is on YouTube. He says, most governments, local, national, have spending issues, not income issues. I get sick every time I hear a politician say they need to raise taxes to fix income shortfalls. Stop spending, says the Sultan of South Elgin. More of your comments in the next half hour. We'll hear more from Sylvia, too, and the following program does not necessarily reflect the opinions and views of the management and employees of WRMN and of the Fox River Valley Media Network. More coming up on Kane County Speaks on WRMN.
With your 1410 WRMN Newsflash, I'm Sean Kernan. Brought to you by Linzette's. Kane County has made its draft for the 2025 fiscal year budget publicly accessible, inviting residents to scrutinize and understand how their tax dollars might be allocated, totaling $416.7 million. It's a 4% decrease from the previous year. 18-year-old Manny Davis is under arrest after a school resource officer spearheaded an urgent investigation into a threat against Larkin High School. Elgin Police Department, upon verifying the threat's lack of credibility, charged Davis with one count of disorderly conduct, specifically making a threat of violence against a school, a Class 4 felony. In an unexpected turn of events, Middle River Power has decided to keep its Elgin Energy Center operational, scrapping earlier plans to close the 540-megawatt gas-fired plant in Illinois. This decision follows a significant surge in capacity prices in the PJM interconnection area, where prices skyrocketed to $270 per megawatt per day. With your 1410 WRMN Newsflash, I'm Sean Kernan.
Flo here from Progressive to tell you how you get more than great savings with us. You get customer service access through our mobile app, online chat, or by phone.
That's a lot of ways I can get in touch with you. I see what's going on here. You can't name favorites, but I'm your number one customer.
Actually, we offer all our customers these ways to contact us.
I'm sure you give just any customer your personal
company
contact info.
Well, you did call us more than any other customer this year. So in that sense, you are our number one customer.
Get help from Progressive through the website, app, chat, or phone. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
I spray and scrub, but the soap scum in my bathtub is still there.
I spray and scrub, but the burnt sauce on my stovetop sticks around.
Sprays can leave grime behind, but Mr. Clean Ultra Foamy Magic Eraser combines the scrubbing power of an eraser with the cleaning power of Dawn to melt away tough messes on contact.
Just wet, squeeze, and erase.
Stop spraying, start erasing, and clean with more magic than ever with Ultra Foamy Magic Eraser.
Mr. Clean, Mr. Clean.
Progressive presents the Sports Flash on News Talk Radio 1410 WRMN.
Around second is Brown on his way to third, being waved home by Martins. Here comes the relay by Swanson, not even close. Sliding in with the left hand is Brown. All the way to third base is Geloff, and the A's are back ahead 4-3.
The action on A's radio in Wednesday's 5-3 win over the Cubs at Wrigley Field. The result allowed the Milwaukee Brewers to clinch the NL Central title for a third straight season. Milwaukee is the first Major League team to reach the 2024 postseason. Tyler Soderstrom homered and Zach Geloff hit a tie-breaking double in the eighth. The Cubs were held to a pair of hits through 4 innings, but finally broke through in the fifth. With the bases loaded, Dansby Swanson and Seiya Suzuki hit RBI singles. Cody Bellinger's sac fly made it 3-1. The Cubs are tied with St. Louis 7 games out of a wild card spot.
Bundle auto and home, renters or condo, and save with Progressive.
I'm Chuck Sanders on News Talk Radio 1410 WRMN.
Imagine your team always looking and feeling their best in high-performance technical workwear. Cintas can make it happen. They have garments for almost every job imaginable. And with the Cintas Workwear program, you get freshly laundered garments delivered every week for everyone on your team. Great garments without the bother of laundry. That's a real perk for employees. Find out how Cintas can boost team image and morale. Visit Cintas.com.
Oh, I'm ready!
And get ready for the workday.
Our daughter Jessie loves playing detective.
But since we discovered she has sensitive skin, we've been playing detective too.
We thought the problem was our puppy.
But it was actually our old detergent. So we switched to Tide Free and Gentle.
Tide Free and Gentle has no dyes or perfumes, so it's gentle on her skin.
If it's gotta be clean, it's gotta be Tide Free and Gentle. This back-to-school season, Tide and Downey are giving back with $1.5 million in scholarships. Enter to win. No purchase necessary. US/TC 17+. End September 30th. Rules. Tide.com/scholarship/official rules.
Welcome back to Kane County Speaks on this lovely day here on WRMN AM 1410, WRMN Radio on YouTube, the talk of the town and the voice of the Fox River Valley. And it's Kane County Speaks here today, where we're talking some issues and talking with one of our great local candidates running for Kane County Board Seat 20, or District 20, and that would be Sylvia Schrage. I hope I said it right.
Schrage.
Schrage. Oh.
Schrage.
Close enough. Well, we have a phone call at 847-931-1410 as we come back. And I think Jim's going to call and talk to us on the line here for a moment. Good morning, Jim.
Hey, good morning, Marky. And good morning, Sylvia and Brian. Sylvia, I've met you at several neighbor meetings over the last year or two. And I just want to compliment you, number one, on your willingness to run and change your, the whole life you're committed to public service now. And I find it really interesting that your particular life experience, I think, is so needed right now with the subject of illegal immigration. You might have a completely different perspective than people that are just born and raised here. And in particular, before I ask you your thoughts on that, I just want to say, in my life, I actually did work in Argentina for a while, and my partner at the time, he was an American citizen. He was married to an Argentine woman who became a U.S. citizen, and her name was Silvana, by the way, not Sylvia. But in any event, at the time, this was like in 2010 maybe, she wanted just to have her parents, her elderly parents, they were in their 70s, just come up to visit for a week or two. And applied, and Obama was the president at the time, applied for just a temporary visa to come for a visit. And they were denied. And Obama's immigration policy at the time was, we can't let these elderly people come and visit just for a couple of weeks because they might stay. So I'd like to get your perspective on the whole situation of legal versus illegal immigration.
That's a pretty complicated issue, and it's very, very complicated. I cannot just straightforwardly say that it's so black and white because, I have a different point of view, having been raised in Argentina, and I'll tell you, some of the people, the reason they're coming here is because I just talked to somebody in the last few weeks who came here, had a very good job in Mexico, worked for the government, didn't need to come here because he's not making a living, but was concerned about the safety for his daughters. So safety is something that we don't even realize, and it's such a treasure that we have here. And when I go to Argentina, and my son noticed it in Mexico, in León, you have bars on the windows, you have broken glass on the walls, and wire on the walls. You can't live in the country, or an open house in the country is going to be broken into. And people, when you come back here, I just take a deep breath and say, I can walk on the street. I can just go out at night and walk on the street. We have a treasure here. And so some of the people are coming because they want that. So that is something important to understand. And some of the people are coming because they couldn't overcome the corruption over there. That's another big reason. I was in Argentina during the years of terrorism, before the dictatorship of the military government. I've been through everything. The Malvinas, Falklands War. I mean, I'm telling you, I was in Argentina during, military curfew, martial law, where they would stop our bus and frisk us with my grandmother going on vacation. I mean, everything. But so I understand where people are coming from. And you do have to understand that. But is everybody coming for that reason? And are people taking advantage of it? And are others, there's a bigger picture. Anybody interested in immigration issues, I encourage you to read the World Bank report on migration. So that is something that I've been studying, and I found some really interesting things. There's a lot of money to be made from separating people and taking a cut in the remittances they give to their own parents. Because, this will happen from Kyrgyzstan to Russia or Uzbekistan to Russia or whoever people get displaced. In the end, and you will see this in the goals of the United Nations, is to bring down, supposedly, this cut to a certain percentage, but it's really a different issue. Nicaragua has a huge benefit they make out of getting people in there. I've talked to people coming through the Darien Gap, and they start off with some money. If you bring too much money, you're going to be, stolen from you. They get to Nicaragua, and in Nicaragua, they're very smart. They don't accept dollars. So in Nicaragua, you have to change your pesos or whatever it is, your dollars that you were coming with, to the local currency. They take a cut out of that. Plus, then they get money wired into Nicaragua to continue the trip. Those wires make a lot of money. And if you look at Nicaragua in the World Bank report, their trade balance is really hugely benefited and impacted by this whole thing. So there's so many aspects to this that you have to look at it and say, who is benefiting it? It's very complicated, but the individual person, there's case by case by case. And I am not so black and white and just being too hard on people that are breaking the law, because I have a different view on this. So I could offend some people with that, but I understand that when the law is not being followed in your country, then that's what happens. We have to understand that. But a lot of people come to make a living, to give safety and a good education to their children. However, even those people are really struggling because oftentimes they even lose their children in the process. And there's a lot of, I've seen working in the emergency room at the hospital, so many people suffering from panic attacks, depression, isolation, and so many of the people that I know that are here, I tell you, it's not easy to be an immigrant.
No.
It's not easy. So it's not this panacea for everybody. And for some of them, they were sold the wrong bill of goods.
Well, and Jim, thank you for asking that. And I think as we're listening, Sylvia has done an amazing job. And we could probably spend the next 3 hours because it is a very complicated topic. I do want to rewind quickly just for our listeners. So the example is, so I've lost track of the time. It must have been late 80s. So my wife came from Canada. She came into California during the nursing shortage. Came over on one of those H-1H visas, H-1A, whatever it was, green card to work. Years later, we got married. She went through the system correctly. I think it took her 18 years to get through the entire system to become, she wanted to be a legal U.S. citizen. So my question is, the spirit I brought that up, I believe what you just said is true, and there's so many different issues, but at the end of the day, are we on the same page as far as come to this country, but do it through legal immigration and not flooding the borders?
Well, the flooding is a problem.
Yes.
I mean, the flooding is a problem because this has obviously gone beyond an individual choice to, it's more than an individual choice. So, and everybody recognizes,
yes,
if you watch the debate, the presidential debate, it was recognized on both sides that there had to be resolved. And
yes,
it's a problem. So
yes,
that's just no question that there is a problem. It's out of control.
It is. And Thank you for that, and I would love to spend hours talking to you because you're right. At the end of the day, and we don't talk about it, other countries are benefiting through the money, and they're not looking through the humanitarian scope of the people. Thanks for that question, Jim.
Thanks, Jim.
Yeah, I just very quickly before I hang up, I just want to commend you for such a thoughtful, both of you, for such a thoughtful response about this issue. And we here just don't really see the whole perspective. And I think that's why we need a candidate like Sylvia to be on the board to bring that perspective for all the residents of Kane County. So thank you very much. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Bye.
Yeah, you could tell Sylvia's done a lot of research and a lot of thought and has been around and been in a lot of different places and knows a lot of things. She's very intelligent. You can tell that from this interview, for sure.
Well, Mark, you're right. And it takes me back to just your studies and your areas of expertise, linguistics and an interpreter. Is there anything you'd like to share with our listeners right now?
Yes, I would like to say that I am a Hispanic leader. I am Hispanic. I'm raised in Argentina. I've made my living as an interpreter. So I would like Spanish speakers to be able to call in. Si usted habla español y está escuchando este programa, me gustaría mucho que usted contribuya, que haga sus preguntas, que sepa que alguien le va a escuchar, que alguien va a estar a su favor, escuchando sus necesidades en el Consejo del Condado de Kane County, el Condado de Kane. Estoy aquí a su disposición para que me hagan las preguntas que quieran. Muchas gracias.
Thank you for that. And I hope, Mark, that some of the listeners, based on what she just said, we may get one more caller before the end of the show. I want to go back because it's just been such a rich time. We could spend all day talking to Sylvia.
I think so.
I love all the candidates, and I'm not going to say that one is better than the other, but you just bring such a rich background, and which leads me to my question. With all of the things that you've done in life up to this point, whether it's working downtown at a law firm, Sherman Hospital, building policies and procedures, being a teacher, which we haven't spent enough time talking about that. I think you teach at ECC, correct? So before you get into that, your whole scope has prepared you for this. What do you are going to bring to the board where they may not have that now?
It comes right back to even what I like about my husband is that what you need, I think, when you talk about people, all kinds of people, is to actually connect directly with people.
Yes.
To meet them directly. And I tell you that I have learned so much about the world, even in Argentina, from befriending people from different groups who don't talk to each other. And that is a lifelong thing for me. In Argentina, there's like, if you're from this part of town, you're from that part of town, there's prejudice, there's differences. If you're from this ethnic background or this country or that country, and that comes all the way to here. And what I respect about my husband, and I think is necessary for people who don't speak another language, you don't need to speak another language. You just need to each encounter, look at the person in front of you, listen to them as a person, not a project. I think that a lot of people are being treated like a category and a project and not as a person.
Oh, I love that perspective. And from my world, it's always been build the rapport first and not give the report, right? Take the time, listen to learn, seek first to understand before you can be understood, right? Get to know the person and not label them. They're a Democrat, they're a Republican, they're an independent, versus we're all human beings. Let's strip the labels, get to know each other a little bit, and discover where the richness and the common ground is, that in an elected position, how can we put the right people in the right seats doing the right things for the people that live in their local communities. And so I think that's outstanding perspective. Now, how much time do we have left, Mark?
We have about 12 minutes, 11 minutes, and we do have one phone call.
Excellent. Let's take a pause and take this phone call, so don't keep that listener on hold.
Yeah. It's 847-931-1410. And he's a guy that's been involved in local politics in the past. His name is Pat Hudgens. Trusty Pat joins us here on the show. Hey, Pat.
Hey, good morning again. Thanks for bringing Sylvia fourth. It's interesting to see. I just think about back when I first became a trustee, like 28 years ago now, something like that, and how the culture has changed. It used to be good old white boys, Republicans elected to office, and it seemed like, we were very comfortable in that, and yet, we've changed to now our culture is different today. It's just so much different. It's refreshing to see that we have candidates that are from different colors and so forth. We're all blended in some way. I mean, I'm part Cherokee Indian. I'm half German. The rest is Scotch-Irish. And, immigrants at some point, except for the American Indians, that I am part Cherokee. But anyway, I don't hold that against anybody. But yet, it's interesting the fact that we have a change in our culture in Kane County and others, that we are so much more blended. I remember, Mark, you might recall this, that when we did our little sessions before you actually took office, I said, as an elected official, you no longer are a Republican or a Democrat. You represent everybody.
Right.
Yeah, it may have been a Republican Party that elected you, or whatever party it was, but now you represent everybody, and you've got to take everybody's perspective view in that. So it seems like Sylvia as a candidate would do that, and I appreciate hearing her speak. I love this program because I get to hear the different candidates from all over the county, and especially in our area here a little bit closer, to know what they're about.
Well, thank you, Pat, for calling. Appreciate your thoughts.
Pat, thank you for calling in. And if you want to work, do anything to help Sylvia get her over the finish line, Sylvia, how can he contact you? What's your website where he could either email you or even call you? Because, Pat, do you live in Elgin, by the way?
I do live in Elgin.
And I was going to say, even if you don't, you can come up and help walk and work and get her over the finish line. So what would you tell him?
Well, my website, I would like it if you could put it on the screen, is SylviaForKane, SylviaForKane.com. So that's my website, and my email is Sylvia, Silvia, at SylviaForKane.com. So you can email me, and anybody who wants to help me can email me, and I'd be glad, or even have questions or concerns, because as a matter of fact, that's what I want. I want to know, what are your concerns? If you didn't get to call in today and you watch this video later, you can email me later and tell me, what do you need done? What are your concerns for the board? And even if there are things that are at the city and not at the board, just don't be let them leave them out. It's okay. It's okay to know all of the concerns, because that helps us to know what priorities we have. And when the city comes asking for help, to prioritize what things to help the city with or not, depending on the bigger picture. So it's not for you necessarily to have to weed out, this doesn't matter or this matters. We don't know who could help with what. So email me at Sylvia@SylviaForKane if you're watching this video later and you're not live today, or whenever. I'd be very interested in your thoughts, your concerns. Thank you.
Thank you for calling in, Pat.
Thanks, Pat.
Yeah, you're welcome. I put that on the YouTube chat, those, because I had to leave the office. I'm in my car now, and I couldn't write those down, but I kind of can remember. I think I can remember your email address, Sylvia. But thanks so much for iterating all that, and we'll hope to be able to help you.
Thank you very much.
Take care, Trustee Pat. And it is up on the YouTube feed right now, SylviaForKane.com, and the email address, Sylvia@SylviaForKane.com. So there you go.
So outstanding, and I'm just reminded, I hope your listeners are catching it, you have such a servant's heart, and you truly, you talk to people, and sometimes you feel like it's lip service, but you talk to Sylvia, and I immediately sense a strong sense of humanity, a care for your fellow person, and that is so much needed right now. And I'm just so delighted that you're running, because we need that.
Thank you.
So,
thank you.
Anyway, tell us about, you're a teacher also at ECC. Tell us about that.
Well, it's really fascinating. I've been there since 2010, and through my students, again, I get to travel the world. I mean, if there's war in Syria, I get Syrian students. If there's problems in Ukraine, I get Ukrainian students. And I mean, that was really quite something when I had in my same class, I had Russians and Ukrainians in my class. And then the Ukrainian student, I had a Ukrainian student who had been hurt by an intelligent bullet and had suffered and had almost 8 hours whatever before they got to her bleeding in the shelter. And anyway, when she was looking for help in class, she could have picked another Ukrainian or a Russian, and she actually got along with this Russian, and so that was really interesting to me that the person and the person got along regardless of all this other politics. And I saw it in my own classroom, and I was delighted to see that people getting along with people from no matter which part of the world. And so I get to learn a lot from them. And I have students from Vietnam, students from you name it, from Ghana, Ethiopia. We have our preconceived ideas about, we got to feed the people in Ethiopia that don't have any food. And my student comes with a beautiful face and beautiful smile and says her first cavity was in the U.S., and I think that's amazing. I love my job and what I learn about the world through my students. And one of the big things I learn is actually health from my Mexican students in particular, because I'm fascinated by centenarians. And so, we have topics on health that we teach and diet. And I go, when I was at the hospital, I remember a doctor I would invite when I was training medical interpreters. And she would say, well, now we say this, now we say that, because she was so aware of how things change. And so I say, whatever's in the book now could change tomorrow, but who do you know who's lived to 100 years old in your family, grandmother, grandfather, whatever? I'll have sometimes 25 students, and I'll have 4 in the class. Somebody lived to 108, 105, one this, one that, 100. I say, okay, let's divide in groups. Let's interview them and ask, what do they know? What did that person do? And what can we learn from those people? So that's what I love about my classes.
Well, and I can just see you encouraging and collaborating with the other board members to dig in. How can we fix this problem, right? What do we need to do? How can we drill down? Let's take a look across the board and see how we can, make the changes or find the money in the budget, as we talked about 50 minutes ago about the lead pipes in Elgin. I know we're getting close to wrap.
I have one thing I want to say.
Yes, go right ahead.
So one of the things that I think would be important is when we get grants that have a life cycle, that, they last a certain amount of time and then they end, I would like to see that those are kind of trained to fish versus, we need to renew the grant. And now that the grant is almost over, what are we going to do? We're little orphans left without our grant. So I know that there was one grant in particular that I was there and it was coming to an end, and the people were saying that, they were concerned. But this grant, the very solution of it was people talking to each other, networking with each other, supporting each other. And I would like to see a plan towards the phasing out to empowering the people to help each other, not depend on the grant, but empower them. So that's what we really need, empowering the people with our plans.
I don't think it gets any more common sense than that. Bring people together, give them the information, and let them work together, right?
Yes.
With the data out there, and I hear it all the time, and we've talked about no labels. 46% of the quote-unquote Kane County voter is independent these days. As we're getting close to, what would you say to these listeners? Why would they want to vote for you versus the other candidate?
Vote for me because I am concerned about the common good and common sense for the common good, and tell me what your needs are and let's work together. But I don't want to just rubber stamp stuff that comes down our way, but really look at what do we need and does this make sense? So please, if you are independent because you don't feel heard, well, make yourself heard and contact me or any of the board members for that matter. You should actually try to get yourself heard and then see what happens.
Very good. And lastly, as we wrap, because of your just huge background. I want the listeners to leave on this note. Tell us a little bit about the accomplishments that you had at Sherman Hospital, because you were brought in to do some special things there. Tell us about that, and how many people did you work with? And try to frame it up. What do we got, Mark? A minute?
About 45 seconds.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, I was helping Sherman comply with the OCR guidance on how to deal with limited English proficiency patients. I had to lead the limited English proficiency committee, and I had to lead committees to draft procedures, policies and procedures to be implemented across the hospital. I had to train the providers on how to treat a patient who they didn't understand, and I had to train everybody on how to work with interpreters. We got 2 awards, and here is one of them from the National Quality Forum, Improving Patient Safety Through Informed Consent for Patients with Limited Health Literacy. So this was one, and I was part of a panel in Washington, D.C. talking about informed consent. And then this is another thing. I had one more award from the AMA Ethics Committee on our work with limited English proficiency patients. But then most recently, one of my articles that is on my website for my business on translations, AMBL language services, under resources or publications, I wrote an article on the translation of stroke. That will give you an idea about how I work, that I don't just take what somebody says for granted. What do you say for stroke? And I've been hired as a consultant for interpretation and translation to deal with this. So there's an article, one of the chapters in this book, Medical Terminology for Interpreters, is actually an article that I wrote and is on my website on how to translate stroke and how to really do the research. The article is not really about telling you the answer, but how to do the research.
You know, as we wrap up, I'm just so thankful that we talked on that, because, ladies and gentlemen, you're not talking to somebody that just rubber stamps something. You're talking about someone who digs in, does the research, collaborates, facilitates, organizes, gets effective buy-in from people, and gets big results. And so what a way to wrap up. Thank you so much for your time. And Sylvia Schrage, District 20. Mark, it's been a great morning.
Yeah, great show. Thanks so much for being here, Sylvia.
Thank you.
Thanks again, Brian, for making it happen. It's Kane County Speaks on WRMN. You can watch it on YouTube.